Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. Our software gives growers the insights to make the best decisions possible about their operations. Well, Happy New Year's, and as you're watching this video early on Monday morning, it's incredibly cold, and this is no news story here, but I just want to show you the all hazards weather map put out by weather.gov. It really shows you just how much of the country is dealing with some incredibly cold air. So the colors that you see here, these are all wind chill warnings, wind chill watches. These are hard freeze watches down here and hard freeze warnings. There's some really substantially cold air that's parked across the United States, and we're going to start off this new year very cold. Now, one of the big reasons why this is all happening is that we've recently seen the development of a rather large area of higher atmospheric pressure in through here. We have that clockwise flow out of that high. We got some pretty strong winds moving across the Midwest, parts of the Great Plains, snaking all the way down into the deep south here. And that strong north to south flow has not only allowed the cold air to come in, but has brought the wind speeds up enough to produce some pretty dangerous wind chill values, minus 20, minus 30, minus 40 degrees in terms of those wind chill values. This is also putting some pretty strong winds across the Great Lakes, which is why we're on the lookout for some more accumulating snow here on our Great Lakes. But really, we want to see how this overall pattern kind of evolves over the coming days. Now, before I kind of dig into that, though, I want to show you this map. I decided to make this late in the night on New Year's Eve. And what it's showing you is how we've spent the last week in terms of temperatures. So a week has 168 hours, and I'm showing you the number of hours over the last 7 days that were spent below freezing. So when you look at this, I want you to understand something. The white that you see up here, this means that no hours were spent above freezing. And then the color shading kind of gets more and more toward the other end of the spectrum down here, which will be 1 hour. But you can see a substantial part of the country spent a substantial part of last week, the last week of the old year, below freezing. Incredible just to see how cold things have been. All right, so what are we doing with temperatures this week? Well, I just want to show you that this cold air is locked in. In fact, it's kind of coming in with a double shot here as we start this new year. And just for perspective, when you look at my color coding, do you see this color kind of demarcation right in through here? That is my 0 degree line. That's 0 Fahrenheit, not 0 degrees Celsius. So this is incredibly cold air that's moving in here. So this is basically early in the morning on Monday. Here's the same thing for Tuesday. Maybe our warm day this week would be Wednesday, but that's just because the below zero temperatures retreat up here into parts of Minnesota and North Dakota and parts of Wisconsin, but maybe some of that tucked right in here to Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio as well. But then watch this. Here's that second shot of it. This is on the 4th. So this will be Thursday, and this is Friday. That cold air really sticks around all the way through our week. So it's going to be a very cold start to 2018. But let's take this and kind of stretch this out and understand the bigger picture for the coming week. We've got 3 areas that I'm watching. Let's go west to east. First, we got a little cutoff low that's going to be kind of pushing in onshore here out west, bringing precipitation chances to the west, which is definitely what we need. This is, of course, their wet season. Middle part of the country, because the overall flow will feature a deep trough that kind of extends over the eastern half of the country. That's not a flow pattern that brings in a lot of precipitation to the central states. You know, we've been talking about for weeks and weeks now how dry things have been in parts of the middle part of the country here where we grow a lot of wheat. Lake effect snow will really be going this week, and we're watching for this system to kind of skirt up the East Coast, which has got some folks worried, but we're going to talk about what we're expecting to see there for the East Coast in just a few moments. So I want to show you the flow pattern of the atmosphere with a little bit different variable than you're used to seeing. Usually I show you troughs and ridges by showing you what are called height anomalies. In other words, troughs are usually blue and the ridges are usually red. What we're going to look at now is a value in the atmosphere called vorticity, and it shows you what we call counterclockwise spin cyclonic flow. Now, why I'm showing you this is because wherever you see these ribbons of high vorticity, the air is lifted, and that gives this support to the atmosphere to produce lots of interesting weather systems. So this is what we're looking at on Monday. So here's the cutoff low that I'm interested in for the West Coast. This is going to be bringing in some flow right out of the southwest into California, Oregon, and Washington, which would be good. They need that precipitation. Here's the broader trough sitting over the eastern half of the country, and it's this feature right here that we're on the lookout for. and this is what's going to happen. You're going to see this small little wave kind of wiggle its way through the middle part of the country, not able to do too much. It's too dry here for it to really do too much in terms of producing precipitation. But all the concern is over what happens once it kind of finally rounds the base of this broader trough and comes down here toward the southeast. This is now Wednesday. And the concern is that if this would have taken a really sharp turn straight to the northeast and followed up the coastline here, we call this a baroclinic zone, where you are meeting very warm and moist air with very cold and dry air. That's part of the baroclinicity of it. Well, anyways, as those two air masses collide, if that little trough would have ridden right up the coast, things would have been quite interesting. But we're missing a few features here. One, we would like to see a huge ridge parked here over Greenland to keep this trough forced against the east coast, and it just doesn't do that. And as a consequence, as you see here, the shortwave kind of moves itself out over into open ocean rather than hugging the coast. Now, honestly, this is a good thing if you live along the east coast, because had that thing been about, let's call it 250 miles farther to the west, this would have been a major system to contend with. And I'm just going to tell you something. This is still several days out. And so when I'm making this video, I want to let you know a lot can change, but this is at least the current look. The west coast still has that little feature that's kind of bringing in some precip, but the middle part of the country stays dry just because this overall flow pattern, while it'd be great if it was summertime giving us northwest flow, that's thunderstorms through the Corn Belt, in the winter it's a whole different picture. This is just a lot of cold air pouring in and really, really dry air already in place. So I want to kind of step forward and get a little bit farther out here and just show you something that I'm concerned about. The models are not going to be able to pick up on this. I'm just going to tell you they're not going to do a good job finding this pattern perfectly this many days in advance, but I want you to see that we're all watching. You see, the models are hinting at the development of a trough that could be coming through the kind of the west central part of the United States, and that's a little bit different feature than we've been seeing, because if that trough does dig through about a week from when I'm producing this video, while we don't know its exact position, it could trigger the development of a pretty big low pressure system that could cause some major issues for parts of the Corn Belt, really getting over into the eastern Corn Belt, Ohio River Valley. So I'm just saying I'm watching that pretty closely right now. It's too far out to kind of give you a solid report on it, but you should just know that the pattern is still staying quite active. Now let's kind of look at what this means in terms of our weather systems. So here we go. That's 10 days as forecast by the GFS model. First things first, dominant high atmospheric pressure comes across the middle part of the country. This is on New Year's Day. This is the major thing that's going to shut down precipitation. This is subsidence. This is why you saw the full moon. This is some really, really cold air. As we step forward, though, just see what we're looking out for here. There's a very weak little low that's going to move across the Great Lakes. That's associated with one of those little short waves that's coming through, but that's really going to enhance the lake effect snow. Here you can see the precip moving in on the west coast, and at the same time that deep low forming just off the east coast. Now, had this same low pressure system, like I said, shifted 250 miles this direction, things would be a whole lot different. This would go right up the coast. This would be a massive system shutting down the east coast by the middle and end of this week, but instead it stays pretty far off coast. Now, what you also noticed, middle section of the country, not a whole lot going on. But I'll just show you this, and I want you to know there's a lot of uncertainty. You see, when I get all the way out into next weekend, so this is now Sunday the 7th, getting into later in that day, the models are trying to produce that low. See this? And as that low comes through, because that trough swings in through this area, trying to produce a pretty big weather system here. Now, this is too far out to pin down, but just want you to know that the models are staying active with this. This is also in the European model, so it's not just a GFS feature, and I'll be watching for it all week to see how it develops in terms of a major precipitation maker for the middle part of the country. I do want to show you this, though. The NAM model, if I run this out 3.5 days, so this will get us all the way through Thursday here, one of the features that it is picking up on is that there is the potential, as that system goes racing out here into the open ocean, that there could be enough cold air and enough moisture on the backside that we could be seeing some snows through early morning Thursday all the way to coastal South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. Some uncertainty here, but this is something we have to be on the lookout for, because these folks, they don't get snow, and when they do, it really shuts a lot of things down and could cause some major problems. So major uncertainty, but I'm watching this one closely as well. Also, that little clipper that comes through brings some snow to Minnesota and Wisconsin, and then it's enhanced as it goes over the lakes here, and that's what you see in this area. So complicated pattern, but that's what we're on the lookout for. Now, I just want to tell you this. Some of our longer range analog models, some of the good global models that we use, plus the longer range European model that I like to use, is kind of hinting at this pattern pattern mid-month. I talked in our last video about a mid-month, warm-up maybe. By warm-up, I don't mean getting up to the 50s and 60s in the middle part of the country, but not single digits. If the models are able to properly capture what's going to happen, it does appear that at times we're going to expect to see a trough more centered in the middle part of the country. That's very conducive to an active storm track that's here over the Ohio River Valley and points to the south and west. My confidence level in this right now, I'd call it about medium. And that's because we have to really, really break down the pattern that's been set up. And using persistence as a guide would suggest that we tend to hang on to our broader trough here that sits north and east of the Great Lakes. But I just want to let you know this is some of the clues that we're getting from our longer range models. And I'll have to be watching it closely because we could see a turn, let's call it after January 10th to a pattern like this, which could get really active for the Ohio River Valley. So let me watch it. I'll keep you up to date on what I see. Let's look globally for a moment here. What I'm going to show you is the last week's worth of precipitation. So let's go back to the 24th of December and watch this animate. Let's pay close attention to South America. You're going to see very active South American monsoon. See all the precipitation here? While it was dry at times in Argentina, they did have a little bit of heat there. You can see a few storm systems moving through Argentina. Watch, here goes another one right in through here. And that means that while not every single field got a drink of rain, it wasn't as though it was complete drought and very, very dry. So very active monsoon in parts of Brazil. And we saw a few fronts that kind of sagged to the north, basically, that went right through Argentina. If I stretch this out over the next 10 days, looking at just the 18Z model run late in the day on Sunday, we're looking at precipitation anomalies as forecast by the GFS. The GFS is picking up on a very wet pattern from the monsoon and through here, but near average to drier than average across big sections of Argentina. So we'll have to be on the lookout, for what's going on down here. And just to kind of bring you back to an update of the overall kind of bigger picture, what's going on for this winter. This is our La Nina. So these are sea surface temperature anomalies. Again, differences from normal. So the cool pattern that you see here is the current La Nina that's kind of going. And the question is, what is this going to do for January, February, and March, which are crucial time periods for South American agriculture? I'll tell you this, if I were to see cold anomalies like you see here, and they also stretched up toward the Baja of California, so if this was not warm, I would say be on the lookout for massive, massive drought developing in South America. That's a sign that we've seen in the past. But as it is, the La Nina right now is being played out in the longer models to kind of give us this look. I've shown you this before. We're expecting some new updates here coming out soon with the new model runs that'll show up here in the first couple weeks of January. But overall, this mimics very closely what the long-range European model is saying as well. But we are picking up on the potential for a dry bias in through this area. So again, Mato Grosso's here, Goiás, Tocantins. So this would be the far eastern growing regions of Brazil and the northern part. Some models have this area quite wet, just to let you know. So there's some discrepancy there. But almost everyone is calling for this particular region and parts of Argentina, so Cordoba, big ag state right in through there, to be relatively dry. So we have to be on the lookout for this because this region has been dry, a little bit drier than average over the last about 45 to 60 days. So could put some pressure on, on agriculture in this part of the world. So we'll all be watching this because this is data that people have been looking at, and basically we're trying to see if the models picked up on this signal pretty well, and if they do, I would expect to see some movement in the price of soybeans, especially in the markets, if the models did come in and get this forecast right. So again, I just want to wish everyone a happy new year from us at Agrible, and I look forward to talking to you again later on this week. We hope you look forward to that video coming out on Thursday. To get morning farm report for your operations, complete with a daily email that shows you a snapshot of your field conditions each morning, go to morningfarmreport.com. Sign up for a free account. Full grower accounts are free if you sign up for our Sustainable Yield program or for growers who work with AD merchandisers. Have a great new year, and I'll see you all again on Thursday.